Welcome to Threatsafe. This is our podcast to help SMEs and SMBs and the people who manage IT within those businesses or responsible for IT to get the very best from the technology that they deploy and then also to manage their cyber security. Let's listen to this week's podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Threatsafe episode 8. Welcome to our podcast and video cast. Martin Roberts of Neuways here with
Toby Stevenson, Chief Technology Officer of Neuways.
Hi, Toby. We're, by the way, folks, we're in the second week of Cyber Security Awareness Month. And if you've not visited this website here, or here, depending which way it's around, it's always a difficult thing, that mirroring. Then you should, because there's lots of resources there, particularly about acronyms and about cybersecurity insights that you should find useful, and particularly when you're at cocktail parties and such like. And you, as a typical listener and watcher of this podcast, are responsible for IT and cybersecurity, but not necessarily responsible for executing it. So worthwhile checking out.
The acronyms will definitely make you the heart and soul of any party that you go to.
Absolutely, it's always worked for me. Yes, yeah, that's interesting. He's never followed by a quick exit. I can promise you. Okay, okay. So yeah, check that out, folks. It's quite useful. Toby, tell me about a recent incident that you did when you were evaluating.
So I speak to lots and lots of customers and take a good look at their IT and what their systems and their network and their cyber looks like. And came across a really interesting one, actually, which we spoke around, where an organisation had been making reasonable efforts around the majority of their IT, but they were on a very, very ageing business system. And it was starting to cause some problems, but not necessarily for the reasons you'd think. And I know that you got involved as well, Martin. So can you give us some insight as to how that went?
Yeah, well, aging. I mean, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? That we recently created this series called Threatsafe because we want to go beyond cyber, and this was a really interesting example of that, a threat that faced the business in that. You can have an old business system and it may have technological issues, software and being supported and that. But actually, this particular business had a problem in that the software had been written by somebody 10, 20 years ago, one-man band effectively. And he's retired, or he wants to retire, he's had enough. But he's also got increasingly how can we say, grumpy in his old age, which I find very difficult to believe that anybody would. And you know this, Toby, dealing with me, that we don't get grumpy as we get older.
No, that's right. But this guy was going full Victor Meldrew.
He certainly was, and actually the issue was that he'd taken offence at some of the way this company had been dealing with him as the author of the software, the provider of the software. And was actually decided for 3 days to cut them off from their software, so they couldn't do any transactions whatsoever, and only gave in through, I think, maybe some feelings of guilt overcame him after 3 days, because he was in danger of putting the business out of business, and we actually see this a lot. I mean, nothing quite as extreme as that. And it was a good reason. It actually was the spur for this company to talk to us about what their options are. There's many reasons why you should change you should review your business software. Is it aging? Is it keeping up? Is it going with the times? Is it agile enough for you? Does it meet all your needs? But more importantly, is does it pose a threat to your business due to the ownership? And I think I'm sorry, I'm going to monologue a bit here, Toby, but you've heard it all before. So at this point, if you want to go to sleep for a little while, I'll promise to wake you up if you want. But there's different types of software, folks, that you have in your business, running your business. And we go from the full enterprise resource planning piece, which you'll have heard of, the SAPs, the Microsofts, the Intels and such like, the Oracles, which are absolutely can be very expensive if implemented properly or even badly, through to the other end. We've got one-man bands or small software houses producing that software, and they all have their own attendant risks. At the top end, you're a bit of a you're at risk of price fluctuations or whatever from the vendor. They've got control of your business much. We just proved the small man has as well, as control of your business. But it's also that the lower down the software business software chain you go, the risk probably increase because the likes of Microsoft, and let's declare an interest here, folks. We're a vendor of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, and we chose that ourselves after a few years actually, because we like the support structure, and the product is being invested in all the time. It's developing all the time. Systems like that, as opposed to the next tier down, which is vendors who provide ERP software, but they're the only people who provide support to it themselves. So you have to use them, and then we get to these one-man. There's a whole raft of things in between. And if anyone's got an interest in looking at new business systems or want some advice about what you should be doing strategically, it's not something you have to do today, but in time, if it's part of your long-term business plan, we'll be happy to chat. I do, particularly, don't you? You know that, Toby, don't you? Once I start talking about these things, I go on and on. But it is a real risk to your business, and we've also seen some smaller vendors lose access themselves to their systems through hacking incidents and such like, and they can no longer provide that system for a little while. I guess we would say that the security aspect as well is likely to be better served by the larger vendors too, because they have to make the investment. If you're a smaller vendor, and a particularly very small vendor, the risk is probably significantly different, because that could take as much as your budget if you were that software developer, protecting the software as well as protecting your environment. Is that probably true to say, isn't it? So we work with I'd say a large software house right now, not providing business software per se. We can't disclose who it is and what they do, but we spend a lot of time trying to get them right. It's fair to say.
Yeah, because there's always this balancing act between convenience and security, and nobody goes out and intends to do a bad job, but with market pressure and trying to deliver something, and if you are a developer that has a certain number of years in the game, these might be things that have never had to be considered before. If you've come from an era where mainframes and AS400s ruled the roost, you didn't have to build necessarily with security in mind, and actually it's really front of mind now. It has to be that one of those mission critical priorities, and then it's that transition that's challenging. And my huge concern always is where these smaller outfits make their software, which is historically been designed to run on a server inside the network behind the firewall, they make it cloud aware, or they give you a web front end, and there's not enough consideration given to the security aspects of it all.
Yeah, I mean, those particular vendors, those smaller vendors, have faced a real challenge in the last 10, 15 years, in that they've had to move to online offerings, which they're not really. They look like that, and some of them done it quite well, to be fair, and some of them have made investment, but some of the small ones haven't. and that's been a real challenge. And so it's sub-optimal software, I think you took a quote, Toby. And now there's this extra layer of security, which you just alluded to, which now has to be. It can't be a cover. It can't be a front. It can't be putting a wall around it. It actually has to be built in to everything that they do, and that's a huge investment. And somebody who is running a smaller software house can't do it at the same speed and velocity as a large organisation or a larger organisation. But they just can't make that investment. They can't get the people. And it's fair to say, Toby, we've witnessed this as well, that finding great people in the security space, both at the software development level and just a technological level to get the infrastructure right, is quite difficult.
It's very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, and there's a cited skills shortage, and I think that there's definitely some truth in that. People that have got that are good at this and understand it, and are not just book smart, but they are. They've got a bit of experience. They're the tricky ones to find.
Yeah, and the big houses, the largest software houses, the larger vendors will pay money for those people that the smaller vendors just can't. So the smaller vendors are the problem they've got is finding the right people. It's going to be if my one takeaway from today's cast really is that if you're running a business system, a small ERP, review it, review the ownership of it, review the there's a whole lot of other things to talk about in terms of what happens if, but should it be part of your long-term strategy? If you are considering another business system for some time, but have yet to find the justification for making the leap to a larger system or a more modern system, then that would be a justification itself to review the vendor of that system, because it does produce a threat to your business, and you need to consider that. Which is slightly, we said some time ago, we would expand the content of this cast to make sure that you're aware of every threat that could be around your business.
Yeah, not just cyber security, but in other areas too, and I just both caveat: not all one-man bands and small vendors are bad. There's a lot of really good ones out there, but it's absolutely something worth checking out. Just that I suppose supply chain security and integrity, they're a vital supplier to you. If they won the lottery and went off to the Bahamas, or got hit by a bus or something like that, how would you continue? And sometimes having these conversations while you're in control and can set the pace is often well worth doing. Even if you decide to do nothing, you've at least made a conscious decision to do nothing.
You could do, yeah. And again, I must just echo the point you made about not all small vendors are bad. They're certainly not. They offer great value. Some of these smaller software will do very specialist software. If you're in a very niche market, they address the detail, the things that you need, but they're great value for money, more likely than not. But they and you might accept what it does and their limitations, but also try and consider those threats. Okay, that's an interesting topic this week. Thank you very much indeed, Toby. So, just to remind everybody, Cyber Security Awareness Month, this month, week 2, go to that website. And actually, Toby, you point now to the website link. That's lovely. Very well done. Better than me, no doubt about it. It's nice having you here, folks, and we hope to see you next time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Threatsafe. We hope you found it enjoyable and informative. Please reach out with any comments, feedback, questions, and we look forward to seeing you soon.